check our manual, proper torque specification for these two bolts. On the last page of our manual is torque specifications. And the pump assembly bolts, 3/8 16, which is what they are with the 9/16 head. The torque is 180 to 220 inch-pounds. So, we'll get our inch-pound torque wrench. Get it set to the proper setting. All right, there we go. Actually, yes, I need an extension, which is a no-no when you're using a torque wrench. Okay. This one's a bit of a problem here. There we go. Okay, so we were good. Great. Alright. So we can take some more of this oil here and use it to lubricate this O-ring groove here for when we put our tank on. Back to our seal kit. There's two O-rings that are the same size. One is for the base of the tank assembly, or can, the tank, whatever you want to call it. And the other one goes in that groove on our top cap. So we just spread some oil all around this. Get this on here. Slip it into the groove. Spread the oil onto that. Alright, that's all set. Grab our other one. Get a little oil on that. This is an easy way to get it lubed. This one goes in this groove on our top cap. You don't want to stretch it too much, just enough to get it in. Make sure it's in place, in the groove. Okay, so then that's ready to go for when we put our can on. Okay, moving right along. Here's our can. Pretty disgusting here, as you can see. I'm going to clean this up. First I'm going to hit it with some solvent. See how much of that junk breaks loose with the solvent. And then we're going to clean this with the scuff pad. Doing a job like this, tearing the whole pump down, this is a must. Because this corrosion is what makes it adhere to this part, makes it next to impossible to get off. So by getting this clean now, it'll make it easier for the next time that somebody wants to remove this can. Plus you want to make sure you have a nice clean surface for this new O-ring to seal against. So that came off fairly easily. Clean it up nice. As you can see, just a little bit of pitting, nothing major. Okay, so when I did the last video, I missed the portion of putting the side cover plate back on. So I'm going to have to cut this in from another unit that I'm rebuilding now that the owner actually wanted it painted. So I sandblasted it first using a glass bead, and now we're going to reinstall the motor mounting plate, side cover, if that's what you want to call it. And I got it ready, it's already cleaned up. And I installed a new oil seal for the pump shaft. And I'm going to install a new O-ring. And like I say, I already have it cleaned up, so it's ready to go. And I'm going to show you how to put this back on. So, here's the O-ring. Pretty simple. Hold it in the grooves. Try not to stretch it too much getting it in. That's it, it's in. We have our bolts. I didn't clean them up yet. You can see the pieces of the nylite washer still stuck on them. We need to remove all the pieces of the nylite washers. Sometimes they're stuck on there pretty good. Trusty pick. I got a new one. I broke the other one since the last video. Alright, that piece is off. I'm going to clean these up with a little bit of solvent first. Dry them off. That's something I didn't do a lot of, or any of actually, in the rest of this video is use compressed air because I didn't want you to have to keep hearing it, but that's what we do, and we usually spray down a part with solvent, then we'll blow it dry with compressed air. So, you want to make sure that these are clean where the nylite washer is going to seat. And to do that, well, there's a couple different ways you could do it. I'm wearing safety glasses, I might add, and I'm going to use a 4.5-inch grinder with a wire wheel. And just real quick go around here once just to clean it. Nice and shiny. You want that nylite to make a good seal. Nice and shiny. That's ready to go. Here we have our nylite washers. We're going to install them with the taper towards the threads of the bolt. You can see it's seated right up against the head of the bolt on the shoulder portion. Just going to get a little bit of oil, hydraulic oil, on my finger and wipe it on this surface here to allow the O-ring to slide in easier. And I give another little dab on the pump shaft to make the shaft seal slip on easier. You may want to note where the threads are on the inside that you're going to be trying to catch with these bolts. Here's one, here's the other. They're not straight up and down, they're actually cocked a little bit. So you keep that in mind when you're putting this on. Now the other thing that I've been doing, and it's not recommended by Meyer, but I've had a couple of these where I rebuilt them and they leaked afterwards from these O-rings, both here and on the side cover. So I've been using a little bit of clear silicone sealant. I just put a thin bead around here, and I'll show you that. Just get a little bit on my finger, lay that on there, and just work it around. Not a whole lot, just enough to make a better seal. Because when I'm sending these things back, well, this one's going to Iowa to the owner, and I really don't want it coming back to me because it's leaking. Not if I could prevent it while it's here. So, like I say, this is something new that I've been doing. Well, I was actually doing it when I filmed the last video. I just didn't show you. Can't teach you all my tricks. Okay, slip this on partially. Grab my bolts. Now I should add that before you do this, I've already done this, but before you do this, excuse me, you want to look real close in here and make sure there's no remnants of the nylite washer still in there. Sometimes it looks like it's aluminum, like what the cover's made out of, but if you look real close, sometimes you'll find half of the nylite washer is still in here, and you want to make sure you pop that out and get all the remnants out and clean this out real good so that the nylite, as it crushes, makes a good seal against the cover. So, I'm not sure if I addressed that one. I disassembled the unit or not, but I wanted to bring it up now. Sometimes you got to wiggle them around a little bit till you find the threads. There's that one. For this, I used a T-handle. Draw them down equally so the cover goes on square. You don't want to bring in one side more than the other. At the same time, I'm watching in the gap and making sure that the O-ring is getting pulled in and not getting pinched. Between the oil that I spread on the surface of the sump base and the silicone bead that I put on the O-ring, usually they slide in perfectly. You'll see a little bit of silicone squeeze out around here that I'll clean off with a paper towel. Which I don't know if I've addressed it before, but when I rebuild units, I use paper towels, and everybody says, gee, Chuck, why don't you use rags? You know why? Rags get dirt on them, and then you keep spreading that dirt on everything else. And that's not something I want to do. I like to keep everything clean. So what do? When I dry my hands, incidentally, don't get carried away with these. When I dry my hands, I save the paper towels. Dry out, and I use them for this. So this way I'm not wasting paper towels. I'm recycling. All right, I'm going to clean that silicone off. This pump's getting painted, and paint doesn't like to stick to silicone. So I'm going to clean this off with a little bit of solvent as well on a paper towel. I'm actually going to sandblast where the silicone is as well to really make sure that it sticks. That's another story. Okay, now the other thing that I'm going to do is my trusty pick. I'm going to get some Never Seize or Anti-Seize thread lubricant, and I'm going to put some in these holes where the motor mounting bolts are going to screw into. So I got my can of Never Sees here. Whatever you want to call it. I call it Never Sees. And I just get a little glob on there, and it's the outside holes. Not exactly sure what the inside holes are for, but I guess it's for more than one application. Maybe there was a prior design, I'm not really sure. But get that on there in the holes. Okay, and then the other thing that I do, my Never Sees, anti-seize, is I pack it over these bolts. Because sometimes the corrosion that builds up in this cavity around the head of the bolt makes it very difficult, as you saw, I think, when I disassembled the unit in the other video, or the other part of this video. By doing this, it doesn't allow that corrosion to form around the bolts. So, and then I take it a little further, bring it all the way around, so that the motor doesn't seize on here. And you don't have to use the rubber mallet and pound it to death like I did when I removed the motor on the unit that I rebuilt in the other parts of this video. So, there we go. There you have it.